Hello, I'm Kryszak and I teach Downeast Documentary at the University of Maine Machias. We're just going to hear from a couple of our students, of our many good students that have put together 3 films in 3 years. We have about 3 months to put together each feature film, and they range from an hour to 90 minutes in length. We're going to hear a little bit from Lexi and Chris, who talk about their experience making our newest film, which is called When the Chevy Breaks: How Small Towns Solve Big Problems.
So you kayaking tours,
Right?
Yeah.
I'm
delete space, don't have any room. Yeah. You gotta get bigger battery.
Good, let's do another take.
I learned a lot about the specific pieces of film, how you conduct an interview and how editing works, and a lot of the artistic bits. Our professor was very, he was technical, but he was also very adamant about the art behind it, and he described a lot of the technical nuances of how you can portray your creativity in film. I remember when we went out to visit Jake and Raven, it was a really icy night and it was hard walking up the steps, but getting in there, it really felt like we were entering a scene. It felt like Jake's shop really was his home and his workspace and where his dreams were made.
Okay, move up quick. I thought all around it was amazing, because I have no experience in documentary or making film. The biggest thing was when you were interviewing people. I thought that whole scenario, that whole scene of there's a camera, there's people around this one person, this person's kind of putting their heart out, and putting it on film and putting it up on screen and everyone's gonna watch it. It's a lot, So it was really cool to see that process and how, if there's one big thing I also took from the class and from the professor who taught the class, that's it's not that hard to make a film. It can be difficult to say it on camera, and then people are gonna watch that. So
People have to trust you too, right?
you have to trust. Yeah, there's a lot of trust involved.
So what did you do to help like somebody like Wayne trust you to talk to you?
Eye contact, and non-judgmental facial expressions, and that's how you do it.
Well, thanks a lot for telling us your story. Thank you. We'll clap you for our guy. So the students work in every different capacity and practice every single little bit of filmmaking. So they work as directors, and then they take turns doing some photography. So what we try to do is I try to encourage my students to capture, just get in the general frame of mind of collecting and capturing. So we're trying to capture people, we're trying to capture the story, a true story from people, we're trying to capture light, and we're trying to capture a composition so that things are right in your face. So a composition isn't always a medium shot of somebody talking far away or a whole bunch of talking heads. So if somebody's talking about lobstering, I make an arrangement and we get out on a lobster boat and we get out and take some good shots of them at the dock. So we're trying to show what people do instead of describing what people do, and this helps support people when they're telling their own story. Sometimes you have to go collect footage low budget. Lights, camera, craft service,
So the animal rehabilitation class was it was very broad about all different kinds of animals, from birds, mammals, everything. We learned how to feed seals. So like if a seal isn't eating, then she taught us how to tube the seals, where you put a feeding tube down, and all kinds of taking blood samples, just what kind of food you need to, like different mixtures of food that would be good for them. Just all this different information. It was a really good class.
That's great.
When I think of an American, I don't think of it in terms of how long you've been here or what your blood quantum is, or, you know, native or non-native. It's sort of, to me, it's a spirit of self-sovereignty, you know, of believing in your capacity to survive. You know, I mean, like I said, I was over in Europe, and this person said to me, "You're not like other Americans." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm a real American. You're looking at a real American here, and you can tell because I'm not afraid of everybody and everything."
Open borders in all the European countries are destroying their countries, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen here. I won't stand by, and neither will anybody else I hang out with will allow this country to be destroyed like that. All I can say is I wear my SS every day.
Well, my initial reaction is rage. And then when I think about it for the 30 seconds it takes me to calm down and things like that, it breaks my heart. My father's 96 years old, fought in World War II. I have a good friend in Grand Lake Stream who's 96 that spent World War II in the nose of a B-17. These guys' hearts are broken, and they sacrificed a lot for this country, and their hearts are absolutely broken.
Okay, the man that I helped from Haiti was a person up here on a visa. He came up, he was walking looking for a church one day. We stopped and we met, picked him up, went to ours, and we developed a friendship. We learned to communicate using Google Translate on the computer on some things, and there's natural things that come and do it. And it was just a wonderful growing experience for us. We have what seems to be like now a lifetime friendship, where it seems like we've always been friends.
And I had a party at my house one time on New Year's Eve. You could call it United Nations party. There was people from Jakarta, Africa, France, India. They was all from in our company. And we all worked together. We got along. I call them my friends.
You know, some of them, let's face it, there's a lot of nice people, no matter where they come from. But if you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to this, you don't want to that, what can I say?
I've done a fair amount of traveling. I've worked on sailboats, and I've been everywhere from here down to the British Virgin Islands, you know, sailing and meeting people. And what I learned about those other cultures helped me so much learning when I was in my travels to accept people. And once you showed them respect, they opened up the doors for you.
Halifax was a big base, and then came down to Castine, and then from there to, I believe, the Carolinas, I'm not positive. They were a supply station for the troops all along the eastern coast.
They teach a wide range of courses, such as marine mammals and pelagic birds. That's where we've been working together, marine bio, oceanography, general ecology off and on, ichthyology, which is, does anyone know that one? Study of fish, very good. And invertebrate zoology, ornithology, study of birds. It keeps me busy. The typical process is that you go out from a long distance, you take photographs, so what you're doing would be useful, and you fill out the assessment sheet, which has to do with how thin the animal is, if the behavior is normal, the respiration rates, heart rates, anything you can get from a distance. Believe it or not, you can get the heart rate sometimes. If you look right behind the front flippers, you can sometimes see the heart pounding just a little bit like that, so that's pretty cool. Then you call that back into Allied Whale, because we work under their license, and they see whether or not they think it's in trouble, given the photographs and everything. If they do think so, they call up one of the rehabilitation centers in the Northeast. So if they say, yes, there's room, you've got to pick that one up. That's when we go out and rescue the seal. What you are allowed to do is train to put a tube down into the stomach through the mouth and put in fluids, primarily something like ringers. It's 0.9% saline. So that's all we can do usually. There are a couple of different things like that. We wear nitrile gloves, we're very careful. We can get respiratory diseases from them. There are all sorts of nasties. So we want to do that one. But we went down, picked it up. It was the students who did that. We did the basic care and took it on to COA. And the result of it was it went down to Cape Cod and finally was released.
Ah, there it is.
Absolutely fantastic audience, and those of you that we're paying have earned it today.
John Constant, C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T, and Karen Constant,
C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T.
Well, we smoke salmon, and we put them on a skewer so people can eat them like you would popsicles. This takes 3 days to produce. It takes us 10 hours smoking, 12 hours of brining. Of course, by the time we get done with wrapping and letting it chill, it takes us a 3-day process. Well, we've been smoking fish for 24 years.
Sing this song if you like.
No, when I was a kid, growing up, I had a pretty rough childhood. My father drank a lot, and he was an abusive man. And so, no matter what I done wrong, no matter what I done it wrong, I'd get a beating for it. I mean, beaten with his fist. And I grew up to hate him. When he died, I was happy. And no more beatings. And my mother was scared of him too. And so I started drinking, and I was out of control. No matter, I was getting in trouble. I got locked up. The first time I got locked up, I was 12 years old. I was drunk on Main Street up here. So I got in a lot of trouble. I was always in jail. Every time you turned around, I was in jail. So I started doing a lot of time. I started doing time in Machias jail in 1975. That was my first bit. I was 18 years old, and I done 6 months. So I was a big hero. I've been in jail. Oh, cool, And nobody was gonna ever change me. Nothing was ever gonna change my mind. I was gonna drink, and I was gonna fight, and I was gonna chase women, and I was gonna have a good, that's the kind of life I want to live. And it got me in a lot of trouble.
And we all have to have jobs and money and all that. But the more you can do that, if you can grow a carrot and, cut lumber and firewood and, sew and build things, like it all goes toward making a whole person.
Well, if I'm trying to attach something, I usually just put a nail in. If I'm trying to get something really thin or an edge, I usually do glue. I've got 2 bottles over here. And sometimes I just make stuff like this. It's got a kind of a sound. It's sort of like a harp. And I make a lot of things. I don't really face too many problems, actually.
My work is done.
To hear the cost of this call, press 9 now.
This is obviously an increasing problem in our states and around the country. Over the last several years, it's come to the attention of a lot of the media. Over the last probably 5 to 10 years is when it's really become a problem. And it's multifactorial why this has happened. But it's actually become such a huge epidemic at this point that more people die of opiate overdoses every year than die in car crashes, which we're talking thousands and thousands of people.
We had actually just opened an office in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, and we were opening an office just like normal. And Jeff came out from California like he did a lot as an owner, and he was assisting us in the open, just helping out and giving me support as a manager. And he had indicated that he wanted to kind of be left alone that day. I thought he was just tired or whatever. He was my boss. I didn't question him. We went out, and it was a Saturday evening, went out with some guys from work, and we came back to the corporate housing where we had been staying, and still hadn't heard from Jeff all day, and I found it a little odd that I didn't hear from him, so I went and checked on him where he was sleeping, and that's when I discovered his body. He had been laying there all day. They said about 12 hours. He still had he basically had a bad hit of heroin, and I found him dead where he was, with the needle still in his arm.
I remember an encounter I had with an addict that still weighs down on my conscience. I got a phone call from a regular client. We met up. I sold her whatever it was she was buying. And right before I go about my business, she told me that she just found out she was pregnant. And I found it crazy how she knew she was carrying a baby and she still had it in her to get high and do drugs. But who am I to judge? To each his own.
That seat is used for the airway, generally. If you have to use the bag valve mask to breathe for the patient, you'd be sitting in that seat. Your oxygen would drop from the ceiling and come right down to the patient. But generally on a regular basis, you would work from this bench right here.
But what this medication does, it's a very fast-acting drug that basically rips the opioid off of the opioid receptor that's in your brain, tears it off, and blocks it, so that opiate can't get onto that receptor again.
We have it comes 2 milligrams to a syringe. We don't give it all at once. They can become very violent when you take away that high.
About 6 weeks ago, surrendered my life to the Lord Jesus Christ. Nothing good can come out of it. It's either you're going to either be in the ground or you'll be in prison, and that's the bottom line. There's nothing good about it.
My name is Paul Trovarello. I'm the founder of Arise as well as the director of the Men's Home, a program for men and women to come into with drug and alcohol and other addiction issues, and long-term, 9 months long, and they get discipled. We're a faith-based organization, a Christian organization, which means that we teach freedom from addiction of all kinds through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's how I got set free. I was a heroin addict for 17 years. Born and raised in New Jersey, and there's no doubt in my mind or my family's mind that I was going to die a heroin addict.
My name is Dr. Kathleen London. I'm a family medicine physician. I'm a scientist, so I tend to go with science. So I use medication assisted, which means the 3 forms of medication assisted that we currently have are methadone, Suboxone, and Vivitrol.
Unfortunately, treatment, no matter what it is, there's not a huge success rate if you look at the statistics, no matter what treatment it is. So anybody that can say they made it out, I don't think it matters what treatment they used, as long as it worked for them.
It's not too close. It'd probably be a couple years before you start hearing about it. You would say, no, I don't want to.
It's not really close to me, but I know it's around. Just be my attitude, just keep telling myself not to.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, come here. Go ahead, show me how to.
Turkey! No! Turkey Star Rolls! Yeah.
God's name was that?
All right, Sean, do the Star Wars. Ready? 11,
You know what you
15,
should do?
16.
5 years from now,
What?
we should meet here to make sure all 4 of you are okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
In the office. Come by Principal Maker's office, right? I'll film you again. 5 years from now, 11, what is it? 16?
11,
We'll
15,
be. It'll be 11, 15, 21.
Yeah.
11, 15, 21. I'll say it so you remember it.
Wait, we'll be
Get back in the
seniors
shot,
and
Abby.
he'll be a freshman, right?
No,
what? Alright, now you're all gonna meet
Oh,
again.
11, 15, 21. Oh, I'm so good.
Say it again, all
21.
together.
11, 15, 21.
We just started the project 2 weeks ago. We've only had one person come in so far. But the person that came in was 20 years old, had been on drugs since age 12, heroin since around age 14. And, you know, I sat there with the person and I told them I was so proud of them to come into a police station. And, you know, I was kind of joking around and I said, can you believe that you came in to get help? And you came in to get help from a bunch of cops? So you think that would have happened a year ago or 5 years ago? No way. So, you know, I think, you know, we're going to treat everybody one at a time, and we're going to grow the program and do the best we can.
So for the first time I had a goal again. And so I decided to come back to school. Also not an easy process. I was older than the typical college student with kids. But I wanted more for my family. I wanted more for myself. But having to battle the you're never going to be anything because you were an addict, that was hard. And I was lucky enough I had people there telling me that I could do it. And so I got into UMM, and my life has changed so much because of it. It's hard. It gave me a purpose. It gave me a social connection. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was doing something right, and I was good at it. And that meant everything.